Toronto Talk Sports and more. It's your boy Hez. We're here with the Sports Roundtable. The good fellas are back in full effect. My man Kashif, Arshad, Rory Mitchell, and Luca Rosano. What's going on, folks?
What's going on, guys?
What's going on? Let's go.
Welcome back. So listen, guys, let's get right to it. We had a great chat in our last segment. Now let's talk some sports. One of the things that we all love the most, The Last Dance. Obviously, the focus on the documentary on Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls and the dynasty, all that good stuff. So we're going to specifically kind of talk about the last two episodes that were recently released, episodes number 7 and 8. Obviously, there was a large focus on Jordan's first retirement in 1993, shortly following the death of his father, and then, going to play a little bit of AA baseball, and then slowly, coming back, and then, going through all the stuff that he went through before eventually winning 3 more. So let's kind of keep it there once again within the confines of those 2 episodes. And I'll throw it to you first, Rory. What are some of the takeaways for you just watching, this wonderful, amazing documentary, The Last Great Dance, on specifically those last 2 episodes?
Well, I feel like we could be here till 5 a.m. in the morning.
Oh boy!
But I'll tell you what sticks out, and I'm gonna just attack it, right? Take the bull by the horns. Jordan's competitor level, his mentality is next to nothing. But also having to deal with the death of his father to then go into the retirement, fake suspension, I like to still call it. It really shows how you can overcome, and he did something that he wanted to do personally in his heart for his dad to play baseball. And heck, he was damn good at playing that game of baseball if he would have stuck with it. You know what I mean? But, I've always said this. If Jordan doesn't step away, fake suspension, whatever you want to call it, that's 8 championships. And it's unfortunate that had to happen for the death of his father to him to go play baseball, then come back into the league. But you've seen what happened when he came back. Yes, he lost to Orlando, but he comes back the following year, gets his body right. I know that from the trainer perspective, being a personal trainer also too. But just, putting your eggs all in the basket, working out, getting fit, getting right, coming back to sweep that team that beat you to go to the finals. Hey, and one thing that stands out with me too, and this be little back tidbits, is Gary Payton, man. Like, who here doesn't love Gary Payton when he talks?
Love the guy, man.
Gary Payton needs his own. I don't know. They have to give him something now because I like GP. The glove. Hall of Famer and whatnot. But overall, the last 2 episodes, we were speaking about this. I really feel it highlights and it documents. And I personally think, as a prediction, episode 9 and 10, I think that's where we're going to get into the big, news and whatnot to wrap everything up into a nice bow for us,
You mean there hasn't been big news so far in episodes, the previous 8 episodes?
More to come.
Stop.
It's been
crazy. It's been legendary, too.
100%. I'm with you, Rory. I mean, episode 7 and 8, if we're specifically talking about them, riveting TV that just captured every single piece of your heart. You talked about Jordan's father passing away and the way he passed away, too. It's not like a natural death.
True.
I mean, getting robbed and then shot, and Jordan not being there and seeing what he was going through. I mean, that was deep. But the thing that stuck out to me, besides, the championships and stuff, which, we all became accustomed to seeing throughout this whole episode so far, was the amount of pressure that he not only had to deal with from the outside world, but within his own team, right?
Sure.
I mean, you saw all his teammates talking about, Jordan being, unprofessional or acting a certain way, and but what does greatness do? What do you need for greatness? You need that attitude. You need that push, and Jordan demanded that out of all his teammates, right? I mean, the fight with Kerr, we saw that in episode 8. It made them stronger. Right? Kerr said it came out, made our relationship even stronger. The thing that stuck out to me was, I don't know about you guys, but was the thing with BJ. When BJ went to Orlando, I think that was in episode 8.
Yeah.
He went to Orlando. BJ sent him off in game 2 by talking some trash. And Jordan came back and just what did they do? They swept them afterwards, right? And they went on. I mean, that's the type of player that MJ was, right? And I think, I'm not sure if I was talking to one of you guys about it earlier. Actually, it was your brother yesterday. You know, all this talk about Jordan and his leadership and greatness and, you know, leaders don't do this or that. I mean, this was MJ. He gave you the goods. He was a leader and he led by example. One of his quotes was, "I never told anyone to do something unless I did it myself," right? And that's the sign of a true leader. And I think he showed it throughout his career. I mean, we got to respect greatness. I mean, there's a reason why we see that emoji all the time, all over Instagram, man. The GOAT. And that's the bottom line. There's no argument about it for what he accomplished and what he had to deal with.
Guys, 7 and 8 were easily my favorite episodes, and it really it grew my appreciation for MJ as a competitor. Obviously being, the youngest of you guys, I wasn't able to watch MJ, while he was in his prime. I wasn't even born.
Are you calling us old?
That's a nice way of calling
me old, man.
Sounds like it.
So actually going through this documentary and seeing the type of competitor MJ was and that win at all cost mentality, it was really highlighted in these 2 episodes, particularly when he retires, he goes to baseball, gets the baseball body, to Rory's point, then, has to reconstruct his body to get back into the NBA body. He comes back and then he three-peats. Like, this dude took a break and still managed to three-peat after that. Like, not too many athletes would be able to do that. And even when he was prepping that offseason, I believe it was, when he was shooting Space Jam, he was shooting Space Jam, and he was still getting his workouts in and getting his pickup ball in, and he invited those guys to play with him, Reggie Miller, Juwan Howard, so he can study them and then have that advantage over them the following season. And that's the year that they, of course, went on to win the championship, the Bulls. So Jordan literally did everything he could to win, and I know it was episode 7 where he said, a lot of people might think, I'm a bad guy, I'm very hostile, but at the end of the day, like, these guys don't know what I went through. Like, he was the ultimate competitor, and it kind of speaks about today's athlete. I mean, are we too soft? Where it's like, you would never see that in today's NBA, where your star player berates people verbally, but in essence, that made those guys a lot better than they were, those teammates of Jordan. So I'm a big fan of, like, tough love, and I think that's what Jordan did to his teammates back in the day, and that was a big reason why he got everybody on the same page with him, and they were able to win 6 championships over that course of 8 years. So, 7 and 8 from a documentary standpoint, a storytelling standpoint, was very well put together. It was really, really well done.
Yeah, that part about Jordan inviting all the guys to come to the Jordan Dome, right? I mean, that was awesome. I mean, that shows just the type of person that he was, right? He wanted to, obviously, he knew his skill set, but he wanted to learn from the other players while he was trying to get back in that shape to try to, play with them and stuff. And to tape the show and then have that 6 a.m. call and then play ball and do all the things that he was doing, that just shows his greatness. And Reggie came out and said, this dude's a vampire, right? Like,
doesn't sleep.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. It's just
that's a great point.
One thing I want to
guys that his competition guys like Reggie Miller, even Patrick Ewing, he was there as well. I mean, these guys hated each other. I mean, within the confines of competition, obviously they were friends off the court, but for them to all kind of get together, and this is still when Jordan was making his way back, his second time, after his first retirement. So just absolutely amazing. Go ahead.
One thing I want to add too is just kind of where when I sit down and have conversations with people in this like inner circle and whatnot, Jordan's accountability. And yes, that fight with Steve Kerr sparked something, because I feel like if you have a player or a team or friends that are around you that you want to align with the same vision, the same purpose, not everybody may get it, but if you want to go certain places in this world, and you want to take certain people with you, it's like, hey, listen, you got to get on the ship. If you're going to get on this ship, we got to work to this together. Then look at that little fight that we now know about after watching that episode. And now look at Steve Kerr, world-renowned Hall of Fame coach. He can get into the Hall of Fame, maybe not as a player, but he can get in the Hall of Fame as a coach. What he's got going on over there in Golden State, So it shows you that no matter what happens in the midst of adversity, you can come out the fire. You know what I mean?
100%, man. But that's the thing, though, right? When you look at it, that was Jordan's job. I mean, Jordan cared. As much as people say Jordan was, hostile and this and that, I mean, he made other players better. He wanted to make other players better. We saw all the stuff that he was doing with Scott Burrow, right? How he's ripping him left, right, and center. He said, I tried to get Scotty to fight. I tried to just knock him, do this, but he was the nicest guy. But players appreciated that. He was one guy, and it's MJ, you wanted him on your team, and you hated to play against him. I mean, that happens in the NBA today, too, right? We see that with some players.
Oh, yeah.
On the team and hate to play against him. But he just made other players better, and I think players appreciated that no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
I want to go back real quick. Rory, you brought it up, the Steve Kerr fight, because one of the things that I didn't know, and a lot of people aren't really talking about, if you listen to the account of what happened, obviously, they were playing in practice, and Jordan was, fouling him hard. And then after a while, Steve Kerr had enough. So Kerr, and these were his own words, he punched Jordan in the chest. So Kerr actually started the fight. He stood up for himself. He punched MJ in the chest. And then what did Mike do? He punched him in the eye. So, props to Steve Kerr for standing up for himself. But in terms of just the context of the story, it should be noted that Kerr threw the first punch.
But here's one thing I want to say real quick, right, is we're all sitting here, right? Hezi, Kashif, Luca, Rosano, myself. Do we not all want to become better in life? That should be your major goal. Now, maybe the intensity that some people come with may not be what you want to have. But the main goal in life is to become better. Become better at whatever it is you're doing. Your job, your creative skills that you have, whatever it is you want to do, as long as you put your mindset to it, guess what would happen? You're gonna be able to do what you got to do. That's why I truly believe. That's why I truly believe Jordan doesn't walk away. Houston Rockets don't get those 2 championship rings, and I'm yet to see anybody debate that with me. But that's another topic for another day.
I really like that point as far as wanting to make yourself better. And I was just going to say, a true leader, and Kashif touched on this, not only will you make yourself better, but a true leader will make others better. And that's exactly what Michael Jordan did.
I don't know about you, but the last couple of minutes, I mean, I wanted to run through a wall. Just seeing Jordan in that that element, him choking up, that perception of people considering him being a bad guy. He's like, if you don't like it and people consider that, well, they never won anything. And it's true. They were never winners to begin with. So that really hit me hard and deep, where it's like, from a person who's a competitor myself, I really appreciate what Jordan stood for and what he did on the court as it pertained to constantly wanting to get better every single day. Because to Rory's point, I mean, we all, especially if you're a competitor, you want to get better every single day. And you can admire a guy like MJ who, once he stepped on the court, no friends, he got to work. He wanted to get the job done. And Zion, you mentioned it. I really loved how he would always find things to fuel him. Like you said, whether the guy having a big game or, BJ Armstrong saying something, he would come back the next game and make him regret saying those things. So, I mean, it's just awesome to see. And, yeah, MJ's the all-time great competitor, I think, in sport. So I would agree with that.
100%, man. With respect to this documentary, from a TV perspective, because of my background, I'm looking at the production element of it.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, ESPN is doing a phenomenal job on that, right? Just to capture that emotion, to tell that story. But the shot that stood out to me, which was just like, I'm looking at it going, this is awesome, was Jordan in the locker room. I think he was talking to Ron Harper at that time, or Ron Harper was with him, and he's sitting there with a bat, okay? He's going like this with a bat, okay? He's got a cigar in his mouth, and he's going, okay, you're going to talk trash, you up 6. Real men don't talk trash when it's 0-0. And he's just sitting
there. Well, that's all right. Let's see if all that trash talking starts when it's 0-0 instead of 5-6 point lead. That's where it starts. That's the sign of a good man. If you can talk shit when it's even score, or talk shit when you're behind score. When you're ahead, it's easy to talk.
And he's just sitting there, you feel that, right? It's just like things like that would fire up Jordan, and the way some of the production's been done, and some of the shots from back in the day, I was like, man, I didn't even know these camera angles existed.
I know.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Like, isn't that impressive?
Exactly.
Like, it's crazy.
You know,
So the way the story is being told is crazy.
And the production value, yeah.
Yeah. So, and real quick, not to take away, but even when growing up, I used to watch a lot of the Seattle Supersonics just because Sean Kemp, when you're a young kid watching this guy, I remember I used to cut my hair like Sean Kemp and whatnot. But I remember back in 96 when that famous, he's laying on the ground with the basketball. You could never hear the sounds. When you hear him sobbing the way he is, it hit me. It hit me as a man. You know what I mean? And it shows that when you care about something so much, the passion that fuels you, and I'm loving that they're capturing Jordan at his most vulnerable moment. Something I've always said is be vulnerable with whatever it is that you're doing because you can produce art. It just shows you how much it meant, the game of basketball and his family, especially his dad, so.
And capped it off with a championship on Father's Day, right? I mean, it was like.
Can't script it better. You can't script it better.
Right? I mean, that was touching in itself. And we felt that. We're all feeling that. Being a father myself, I mean, I'm like, oh my God, I could just imagine what MJ just went through to do that. And the way it's been captured, I think it's riveting, man. It's touching.
Let
me ask you guys something before we go into the next topic, because I think we talked about the Sonics here. Why wasn't Gary Payton on Jordan in the first 3 games?
Because George Cole he was cocky to not put him there until you realize, we got to put our just defensive player
for the offensive end, even though he was known for his defense. That's the only thing I can think of. But to MJ's point, and you saw how MJ laughed that off, I don't think it would have changed the outcome of the series. It might have made 1 or 2 games more competitive. But the Seattle, they were not going to win that series.
But the scene of him holding that iPad and just laughing the way he's laughing. Clutch television right there, right?
Okay.
That was gold.
I think Luca wanted to say something. Luca, get your thoughts up. I want to hear something.
Yeah, I was just going back to the beginning of episode 7. First of all, I didn't know Jordan had that great of a relationship with his dad. And then secondly, we got to remember, guys, he went through a lot of scrutiny, and what the media did was very shady, where they tried to connect Jordan to the death of his father and his gambling to the death of his father. So, that was horrible. That was terrible. And for Jordan to go through that and still overcome all that from a mental standpoint, it's just remarkable.
I'm just going to say something real quick because I like to throw the hot takes out there. So I just heard why is Peyton the best player? We're not going to act like Sean Kemp wasn't murdering Dennis Rodman that whole entire series, though. That's all I'm going to say.
He was amazing. He had a great series. He did.
Kemp was owning Dennis Rodman, owning him.
He had some mad hops. I mean, he was very athletic.
But that's arguably one of the top defenders in the game. You know what I mean? So that's kind of something that it's like tit for tat. I think in my personal observation, watching all of the teams they played in the finals, I felt that the Supersonics personally, in my eyes, when I go back to critical points of that series, there was parts where the Supersonics were pushing them to the next level. Yes, some of the scores look lopsided, but when you have Peyton and Kemp, 2 guys that, is Gary Payton a top 50 NBA player of all time? We don't know. We know Sean Kemp's not, but just for how that team was built by George Call's system,
They were built as one of the biggest underdogs ever in that series. Remember, the Bulls were the 72-win Bulls in that.
That was their historical year.
Definitely fought till the end.
Yeah. For sure. So, guys, let's get out of here on this. You actually touched on something earlier in the segment, Rory, where you're pretty emphatic, pretty confident in saying that if Jordan had not retired that first time, then he would be looking at not 7, but 8 championship rings. So I just wanted to throw it out perhaps just to Luca and Kashif. Are you in agreement with that? Or do you have any, what do you have to say about that as far as if Jordan did not retire? Do you feel that it would have been destined for him to, win both of those years and ultimately have 8 championship rings?
Yeah, no rebuttal for me. I mean, a lot of people look at LeBron's 8 straight trips to the finals as being impressive, but to Rory's point, I would argue if Jordan didn't lose interest at that point in his career. He stuck it out, just being the natural competitor that he was. I could have honestly seen him run the table and win 8 straight championships. And it's going to go down as one of the biggest unknowns of that era in basketball.
You have any doubts, Kashif?
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you guys. I mean, look, you can't predict the future. You can't predict what would have happened during that time. Certainly, they had great teams, and they were on such a roll that certainly could be a possibility. But you know, everything happened for a reason, and he played baseball, because his father wanted him to, and it gave him that opportunity. I think, you know what, that probably made him a little bit of a stronger person internally as well, right? So that experience alone, I think, was helpful. Could he have won 8? Sure, but we just don't know, right?
Cash, if you know deep down in your heart that he's winning 8 championships.
I can't predict the future, man.
I'm just putting it out there. Look at the totality of the teams. Man. I'm talking about the teams. The totality.
I think we're all in agreement that none of us would bet against Michael Jordan. I think that we'll all agree with that. At least not with our own money. Not with our own money.
Well, you high stakes over there, man. So I don't know.
Oh, hey.
Hey, injuries could happen. Anything like that could happen, right? So you just don't know. So you got to take it for what it's worth.
And he was worn down too. Let's call it for what it is. Like winning 3 straight championships does take a toll on you, both physically and mentally. And he came out and said it, like he was done at that point. So that's the only thing that I would say as a rebuttal that would prevent the Bulls from running the table of winning 8.
Good point.
Just a fatigue standpoint, maybe just running out of gas.
Yeah, possibly just, being bored and, looking to do something different. And obviously the death of his father played a major part in his decision to step away, right? And you touched on it, Luca. That's one of the things that we learned, one of many things that we've learned from this docu-series, just how close he was to his father and their relationship, right? They were very, very close. And I don't know if you guys noticed this as well, just the starking similarities in their appearance as well, splitting image between him and his dad. So that's an interesting thing as well. Guys, we certainly look forward to episodes number 9 and 10, obviously coming up this weekend. So perhaps we'll come back and talk some more. Before we wind down the sports time, I'm just going to throw this out there really quickly on the topic kind of NBA basketball. So not so much if you want the league to come back or whatever the case, because we can talk about that for a long time, the ramifications of yes or no, should they, shouldn't they, or whatever the case. But just very quick predictions as we wind down here. Do you think, what is your prediction, will the NBA be able to salvage its season? Will this current NBA season continue? Rory, what's your prediction?
It has to. If all the major teams, or not should say major teams, major players come together, you don't want to have an uncrowned champion. So and we spoke about this even before a couple of days ago. I think the bottom half teams, whoever was in playoff contention, you have to do a mini little tournament with them. And then let's just have it right now. I'm saying this confirmed. Let's throw this out there. Best of 5 series across the board. Anybody can be anybody. Let's do it. I want to see the theatrics. I want to really see who is the top of the food chain. We're going to find out who the best basketball player is. If it's LeBron, is it Kawhi? Is it my guy over in Milwaukee, Giannis? You know what I mean? Let's see what happens.
So the NBA will be back.
Has to. It has to. Play it with no fans. I don't want no fans. I just want to hear the trash talk,
Okay.
And the intensity. Let's get it. Let's keep it going. Let's go. I'm fired up for it.
What do you think, brother?
Yeah, you know what? I think we will get it back, especially now that you're starting to see some of these soccer leagues slowly get back into the mix. MLB proposing something that they would start, I believe, next month or in July. So I think eventually the NBA will be back with just their postseason. I think they're going to go straight to the postseason with shortened series, like Rory pointed out, and we will get our champion. And you know what? I'm interested to see that component to it, because it's going to be the first time where we see professional competitive basketball at that level without fans. And again, which players are going to thrive, which players are going to fall from not having fans in the stands kind of motivate them. So that's a very interesting aspect that I'm personally looking forward to. But then on the flip side of it, I don't know if you guys were able to see very quickly, Charles Barkley and Shaq, they actually don't want the NBA to come back from a health standpoint. And not only that, but, I think it was Shaq that said, whoever wins is going to have an asterisk beside their name until the end of time, which I do agree with. I mean, let's call it for what it is. If LeBron goes on to win the championship in this quarantine season edition, the haters are going to be talking about how this is going to be, you know, voided on his overall resume. So I don't know. I'm kind of indifferent about it, but you asked me for my prediction. I'll say the NBA comes back and goes straight to the postseason.
I think there's a lot of hurdles to get through to get to that stage. I mean, there's been so much speculation that we've all seen. Hey, is it coming back? Should they cancel the season? Do they shorten the season? Do they, you know, best of 5? What do they do? There's so much speculation. I mean, there's contracts that you got to talk about, right? I mean, obviously the players' health is key. We talked about the players come back in Vegas and doing that league, right? Which hasn't come to fruition. So will it come back? Perhaps. Not sure what's going to happen. Again, going back to what we just talked about, don't know I can't predict the future, but you know, there's a lot of, it'd be interesting to see. I'm certainly with Luca on your point about the asterisk. There will be an asterisk, hey, shortened season due to, you know, pandemic or whatever it was. But it'd be interesting to see when it does come back, how the players' health is, because that would be first and foremost, because now they've been off for what, a couple months now? I mean, you need a little bit of a training camp to get back in shape. I mean, these are high performance profile athletes. So there's a lot of things that's going to happen before it comes back. Can't predict, you know, if it's going to be this year, but it would be awesome to see. And to your point about the fans, absolutely. That would be something interesting to see how the players perform.
Can I say one thing real quick? Just one last thing real quick, because we're talking about at risks. So I think Luca knows what to do here. There's a lot of teams in this NBA from past champions that do have an asterisk title, but, you know, we won't really, you know, go there.
Are you gonna knock me, man? You gonna knock me because I got my Debo thing?
Wow.
I will do that. I will do that. I hope it doesn't get cut out.
What about
I
the
will
Warriors?
throw that out there.
They were
hold on, guys. Kashif, I'm not going to let you off the hook. You're not coming back on Toronto Talk Sports and more after so long and get away with this crap. Oh, I'm not going to predict the future, blah, blah, blah. Or weighing 2 sides of the coin. Will the NBA come back, Kashif Arshad? Yes or no? What is your prediction?
My prediction is they do not come back this year. This is my prediction. There's too many hurdles. There's too many hurdles to climb.
You know why? Because he wants to still have the defending, reigning title champs with the Toronto Raptors.
That's right.
And that is what I was trying to get to. How many at-risk titles there really is in the NBA, but you know.
So let me say this, guys. I actually do believe that the NBA will come back, but I actually hope that Kashif is right. Personally, I don't think they should come back. I just think there's too much risk. And we can talk about it, you know, till the cows come home. There's so many different factors, as you mentioned. But I think that they're going to weigh all of the options, and I think that they will opt to, you know, salvage the season some way, somehow. We don't know what it's going to look like, where it's going to be. But, you know, when you have that much money on the line and that many, you know, persons with a vested interest, not just the players, obviously, you know, the fans and everyone else connected to the league, they want basketball. They want to finish off the season. So I think they will figure out a way. I just, you know, keep everyone in our prayers that they're able to do it properly and, you know, for everybody's safety, not just the players, but for the staff, whatever media members would be involved, anybody who's within close proximity, that the virus does not spread. So we'll just kind of stay tuned on that. And lastly, I do have to just very, very quickly chime in on the whole situation with the potential asterisks or whatever. Real quick, I'll just say that I believe that a greater argument can actually be made that whoever wins the championship this year, it was actually much harder than any other championship before. And even Kashif, you touched on it as far as these guys having to go through the process of getting back into game shape and the conditioning and all the stuff that they've been through, whatever the case. So I would say that, once again, anybody, if they do salvage the season, whoever does win it this year, an argument could certainly be made that it was even more difficult than what it would have been before. I'm not really for asterisks and whatever. If you win, you shake their hands and, you know, you kind of keep it moving. But, you know, I will say that, you know, the Raptors did get lucky last year. But anyway.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that. Thank you for saying that. Thank you for saying that.
And Luca, you were here.
Throw that in there.
Thank you for saying that.
Come on, man.
There's no asterisk. I was Luca on this. There's no asterisk.
Look at the Warriors.
What do you mean we the North?
There was a major injury along their path.
Wait, hold on a second. You talked about what? Curry and Durant being hurt? Is that what
Curry and Durant were not hurt? You mean listen, I'm not talking about Durant.
No,
I'm talking about Clay. Because if Clay does not tear his ACL, we're going all the way back to Air Canada Center. And I'm telling you right now, I would have messaged every single one of you Raptor fans individually and asked you a couple questions. Because Steph Curry is going to go absolutely nuclear in that series.
I agree with that. If Clay doesn't go down, I think we choke. But listen, it's a part of sports. The injury happened, we capitalized, and Kawhi Leonard.
Why are we talking about what ifs?
I know, right?
Reality, folks.
But I'll say this, and you guys know I'm not a Raptor fan, but I don't take anything away from them. They're the NBA champions.
Yeah.
They did their thing. And, props to them. And honestly, and not to, I know we're not talking too much in the Raptors here. If the season does come back, I think the Raptors have as good a chance as anybody in the East. Milwaukee is obviously the beast in the East. But the Raptors, you definitely can't see them. They were having an amazing season despite all their injuries and the ups and downs that they experienced. So it would be great for, obviously, Toronto Raptor fans to see if they could potentially go back to the finals. And I think that they would have a very decent chance.
Who are they going to beat to get there?
I like the Raptors more than the Celtics, definitely more than the 76ers.
The Bucks.
The Bucks are the only team I think that could give the Raptors some trouble. That's just my opinion.
And the problem is, too, that I see is actually with the no fans aspect being detrimental to the Raptors. Because let's call it for what it is. The Raptors have one of the best home courts in all of basketball. So that would actually, I think, hurt them. But to what you said, Zion, I think it's literally going to be, Raptors or Bucks. And I know Rory's shaking his head right now. But
I know it's going to be the Bucks. The Bucks are going to be in the championship against probably the Lakers or the Clippers, and they're going to drive Giannis all the way to Golden State. But that's just a spoiler, folks. Just letting you know.
You heard it here first, guys. This was a lot of fun. We could talk so much more. Definitely have to have you guys back on. Guys, before we wind down, I'll actually kick it to you, Luca. Let our audience know how they can connect with you on social media and online, man.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks so much for having me back on. It's always a pleasure to be on your show, Hez, and you can connect with me. Luca Rosano YouTube channel. Of course, I host the Luca Rosano podcast every Friday, and the Waterboard Report, which I've recently turned into a Toronto sports publication. Got a team of writers now covering Toronto sports. Obviously put on hold for now, but we will be back stronger than ever. So definitely connect with me, guys, and definitely give a follow to this great show.
Absolutely love it, for sure, for sure. Arshad, man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. First of all, I just want to thank you. We started off a long time ago on this, so to be back, it was a pleasure to talk some sports, especially with Luca and Rory in the mix as well. Luca, I want to give a quick shout out to you for those watching for the interview with Stephen A. Smith.
Yes.
So to that, that was awesome that we had some representation, and you did a great job, man. I mean, but my question was, how did you even get a word in? Because Steve likes to listen, so shout out to you on that. Reach out to me on IG, man. Anyone watching, Kashif, Arshad, 2 anytime. I'm always on. I'd love to connect with people and chat and see what's up, no matter what industry you're in. And sports is a water cooler chat, and it's great. Zion,
I'll say this to you first. Thank you. It's been a long time coming. Toronto Talk Sports.
So glad you got to join us. Finally.
It's been from the bottom of my heart, greatness. Kashif, Luca, Rosano, Hezi, you guys have all been on the Mitchell Report Unleashed podcast. Follow me on Instagram, RE3684. Twitter, official Rory, and the Mitchell Report Unleashed podcast is wherever you listen to all your podcasts. So Apple Podcasts, Spotify, you name it. Thank you once again, guys.
Thank you so much once again. This was a lot of fun. We definitely got to do this again soon. To our audience, thanks for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed. Zion Hezekiah signing out. Toronto Talk Sports and more.
Thank you for watching. Please click the like button and leave us a comment with your feedback. And don't forget to subscribe with notifications to see more engaging and interactive content. Toronto Talk Sports and more. For the love of the six, let's connect.